My given name is Dillon Tintreach. I'm the lead singer of the rock band Tintreach. I currently reside in Chicago. I grew up in Ireland and came over to the States in 2012 at the age of 18, wanting to make it as a songwriter and performer. When I was just a little one, my dad said that he thought I must have come from a band of wee fairies, hence the name Clurcan. Obviously, I've grown since, but I took the stage name to honor my family roots and traditions. They say that life is what happens when you're making other plans. I never expected music to be my thing. I grew up obsessed with football, soccer to you Yanks, and played a lot as a child. Like every other young lass or lad, I dreamt of representing my country at the World Cup. Those dreams were extinguished once and for all after a series of concussions on the pitch. One door closed, another opened. I started in New York City, where there's a thriving Irish music scene. I sang and played the penny whistle and the bodhrán, and I picked up some gigs with a few bands here and there, but really struggled to find my place. Lots of smoky rooms with the smell of china and cheap perfume. And eventually I was introduced to some very talented musicians who were looking for a songwriter and lead singer. That was me. So we formed a band and moved to Chicago to cut a demo record. The Windy City has been good to us, and we never left. We named our band Tyrannus, a Celtic god of thunder and noise. The name fits our band style. We fit neatly into the gap between Irish pop music, like U2, the Cranberries, Van Morrison, and the hard-driving, kick-em-in-the-teeth rhythms of Flogging Mary and Dropkick Murphy. The lyrics I write are intended to get people thinking, whether it's about love, loss, or social issues. Some of the songs I write challenge the mainstream way of thinking. Occasionally, our band, like any other band, has internal conflicts. It probably doesn't help that I have a very typical Irish fiery temper. Despite these occasional conflicts, the band has stayed together and we all get along well. By 2015, we were performing to sold out crowds. In 2016, we cut our first record, Thunderbolt and Wheel, and were nominated for a Grammy for New Artist of the Year. It's not been the same since. The paychecks were pouring in, but the fans' applause was the most gratifying paycheck for us. Our next CD, The Tales of Aaron, was released in 2018. The best inspiration for songwriting is to write about what you know and experience. The lyrics run true, which is probably why our music is described as soulful. The band and I had experienced some troubles after rising to the top. The crowds of the shows were enjoying our unique blend of traditional Irish tunes kicked up with driving bass lines and jamming guitar riffs. Mosh pits, body surfing, and stage diving were part of the rock concert culture. Those activities were just a small part of concert as the wave at a sports event. So yes, we had them at our concerts, but we weren't doing anything different than any other rock band. Unfortunately, a couple of fans were hurt in a mosh pit. We talked about stopping the practice, but before any decision was made, our hands were forced. 6 people were injured, 3 seriously, after a mosh pit broke out at the Windy City Music Festival in Chicago in August of 2017. After that, most venues wrote it in clauses to preclude such activities. Another fateful event was my boating accident in October 2016. Some friends and I were out on Lake Michigan partying in a speedboat when we unexpectedly came on a swimmer who was way out past the proper area. I swerved at the last minute, but hit my head and was thrown across the deck. I sustained head injuries, broken ribs, and a punctured lung. I was in the hospital for a month. The accident left me with a state of constant agonizing pain. I was prescribed a potent painkiller containing an opium-derived oxycodone. It became addictive. I made poor judgments and had several volatile run-ins with photographers, reporters, and the law. I pled guilty to prescription drug fraud in Illinois in March 2017. I did not have to serve any time, provided that I would enter a rehab program. Because the rehab was court-ordered, I had not committed to it fully. I subsequently relapsed and OD'd a month later. As fate would have it, one of the band members stopped by my flat on the way to a party and found me unconscious. This time I checked myself into a rehab program. It was then that I knew I had turned the corner. I've been clean since that time. Because of my boat accident and drug issues, I took a break. Instead of performing, I focused on creating quality music for our next album. It was a time of introspection and, quite frankly, tranquility. I never felt better. The Tales of Aaron CD was the best music I'd written. We released a few singles by late 2017, and it was all the rave with the critics and our fans. We set a tour to begin in the Midwest and spread to other parts of the country. You probably already know about the tragedy with the lightning strike at our concert outside of Des Moines in 2018. Since that fateful night, the band has just been going through the motions. In mid-2021, we decided to take a break. I was contacted by my agent, Baskin Robin, in February 2022 about being part of a television reality show over the summer. I'm not sure why they thought of me specifically, but the idea of being on TV like that amused me. I met with Robinson and with the producer, Storm Something, and they told me the general idea behind the show, the basic rules, and gave me a contract to review. I also had them give me tapes from the first two seasons. I wanted to know exactly what I might be setting myself up for. The premise seemed cool, basically just hanging out with the other celebs and every once in a while making a fool of myself on physical or mental challenges. I was comfortable with that. As I read the contract through, it struck me as being way too restrictive for me as an artist and a songwriter. For example, there was a provision in the contract that said that anything I created while on the show was property of the show. Songs that came to me at weird times. Just because something great might pop into my mind while I'm appearing on that show doesn't mean I should give up my own creative work. I asked about that specifically. Storm told me that the contract was the same for all contestants, both in the normal show and in the celeb version, but that they would be willing to make some side agreements for the purpose of the special season. We came to an agreement, an understanding that any songs or lyrics I wrote while on the show would be retained by me but shared with the show. In fact, there was an expectation that I would noodle around with music and lyrics during my time there. I think the producers were loving the idea that I might create something that could later be used on their show. I don't think my deal was unique. Among other contestants were a painter and a best-selling author. I'm guessing that they made similar arrangements. The author, in fact, told me that he was asked by the production company if he might create a whodunit type mystery based on his experiences on the show. Creative branding, Storm had some ideas.